The Papa Schro knows Super Bowl 57 preview finally here. Happy Super Bowl weekend, Chiefs Kingdom. We're ready for a big game here. I'm recording on Saturday, so tomorrow. Huge implications in this game. If you're listening, I appreciate it. Go ahead and subscribe if you like what you're hearing. I'm on Substack, Spotify, and Apple Podcast as well. Wherever you're listening, greatly appreciated. If you want to check out some of my writing, it's on the Substack, Papa Schro knows. So let's jump right into this game. Huge game. Obviously, it's a Super Bowl. It's going to be a huge game every year, but the Kansas City Chiefs have made their way to this game for the third time in 4 years. Of course, the first one at Super Bowl 54, facing off against the 49ers, bringing a Lombardi trophy home for the first time in 50 years. We had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the following year, Super Bowl 55, and now here's Super Bowl 57 in Glendale, Arizona against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles pose a very interesting matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think. It's going to be a very good game, I think. Either way, I think I've seen a lot of Eagles fans that absolutely think that they're going to run away with this football game, and I just kind of think that's crazy. But nevertheless, first things first, I kind of want to jump into just a little bit of history making on Sunday, as the first Cherokee Nation citizen, Jared Phillips, will get to officiate the game. So congratulations to Jared for being the first Cherokee to officiate a Super Bowl here at Super Bowl 57 on Sunday. The first Native American to ever officiate a Super Bowl was back in Super Bowl 45, Mike Weatherford of the Chickasaw Nation. So exciting news to get to see that. And Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. Actually mentioned this and talked about it a little bit. And he said, quote, "The Cherokee Nation is extremely proud of Jared for becoming first to represent the tribe in the Super Bowl. This is one of many accomplishments he has already garnered in an outstanding professional career." That coming via Chuck Hoskin Jr. So I just wanted to get into a little bit of that just to make sure it's known. And I feel like, I haven't seen many outlets putting anything out about it other than the Cherokee Nation social media. I haven't seen the NFL comment on it or put that out or anything like that. I honestly didn't even know about Mike Weatherford as I was doing some research after, knowing this with Jared Phillips and looking into seeing if a Native American had ever actually officiated a Super Bowl. So Mike Weatherford did Super Bowl 45. Moving into the game, though. On Sunday, when everything comes down to the kickoff, all of the hype, anything we're going to see, the video packages. We had The Rock last year at last year's Super Bowl in L.A., hyping it up. When it comes down to it, they're playing 60 minutes of football just like they do every other Sunday. Halftime going to be a little bit longer, which I'm not a fan of when the Chiefs are playing. I'm just not a fan of that, but Rihanna is performing the halftime show this year, but with all the festivities of the Super Bowl, halftime being a little bit longer, sometimes that gets teams when they come out in the second half. I don't know if we'll see. We'll see how that works this Sunday. I know in the first Super Bowl with the Chiefs, that was a little rough coming out from halftime. Then against the Bucks, that was just a bad day, and so much went into re-preparing this team for this game. And the offensive line, Orlando Brown Jr. still here, and we'll see what happens after this game. There's a lot of questions to be asked after this game, I think, whether it be Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Orlando Brown Jr., Juju Smith-Schuster. There's a lot of questions, a lot up in the air going into this year's offseason, but we'll get there after this. We'll get there after that. After we get through the Super Bowl. And I just want to say, again, we haven't even played the Super Bowl. We haven't got to the offseason. I already got my email to renew my season tickets for next year. Like, relax, guys. We'll get there. Let's play this game first. Let's get to the offseason before we think about everything else. But I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a close game for the most part. And I did put out my blog earlier this morning on my preview of this game, so if you want to go check that out and read what I had to put out there, then I'm kind of going to go over a little bit and kind of going to, just talk about this game. And so I think first things first, obviously the battle in the trenches. Like when we get into it, the battle in the trenches is the number one just fight in this game, the battle of this game. And I know a lot of people have said, that's your biggest key to the game. I also said the same thing. I mean, it's, Captain Obvious here. As I said, the Chiefs are going to have to limit that run game of the Eagles, which, obviously that is the number one goal for the Kansas City Chiefs defense and how good the Eagles offense has been. You've got two MVP candidates, one that won the MVP in this game with Patrick Mahomes winning his second MVP, getting to this Super Bowl. And what a performance it's been through the playoffs for Patrick Mahomes, getting hurt in the divisional round, the conference championship game where he just went absolutely nuts, did everything he had to do when he needed to do it, making the run at the end of the game, and then the 15 yards getting tacked on afterwards. So I really think that, this game Sunday, everyone is peaking at the right time. We're really seeing this team come alive. And it just reminds me so much of Super Bowl 54 and the run that the Kansas City Chiefs had to that Super Bowl against the 49ers. So obviously we're hoping a lot of the same. To go back to the officiating for a minute, Carl Sheffers will be the head of this crew. He was obviously the official that officiated the Monday night debacle with the Las Vegas Raiders. I still, to this day, it's something about the Chargers and Raiders so hard to switch sometimes, getting away from San Diego and Oakland, knowing that they're in LA and Las Vegas. But that Raiders game, that, Monday night ref ball that we had there, that had quite the crazy ball game. One of the most interesting games I've ever attended. So that will be an interesting thing to watch in this game. Obviously, a lot of talk has been made of the officiating in this postseason. So, I mean, I think we'll be all right. I think hopefully we see a game where the officials kind of just let them play. I feel like that's my favorite type of officiating. Let them play. If you're gonna let things go on one side, let it go the other, and just let that be the course of the game. We'll see throughout the first quarter, probably kind of what kind of calls we're going to get, what we can get used to throughout this game. So either way, something of note, obviously, that I feel like this year, definitely I've noticed big time, just all sports too, with the umpire report cards in baseball, and then having, I feel like the officiating crews are you see them on a lot of, I haven't been putting them on my previews, but you see a lot of, people will mention that, or, in game previews that you're reading or something, they will mention that and say what crew. You can go to, I can't remember what the website's exactly called, but, you can go in and check your officiating crews each week when they put them out. So Carl Sheffers gets the call for the Super Bowl. So jumping back into kind of the battle in the trenches, I think the Chiefs' defensive line, looking at the stats, really, it's kind of surprising to me to see it's the Eagles on paper have the better defensive line, but really on paper, the Chiefs have the better offensive line. And I don't think, and I'm talking pretty much strictly about sacks allowed right now, but just looking at what the Kansas City offensive line has generated and the numbers that they've generated have been surprising, because I know we have all been hard on a lot of guys on this offensive line, Orlando Brown Jr. mainly, and Andrew Wiley on the other side. The tackles have been, not great all season, and it's been tough to watch here and there. So, but they've come together at the right time, and that is one thing about this team that's just clicking. It seems like everything's kind of clicking. I feel like all year I was writing about, kind of complaining about, why can this team not just put it together? Why can't, when the offense is playing good, the defense is playing good, and the special teams is playing good? It seemed like every time the offense was on fire, the defense was terrible. Every time the defense was on fire, the offense was terrible. So it just didn't seem like they can, and special teams was a crapshoot all year. So it just didn't seem like the Chiefs could really put together a full game. And these last two games, man, they have been the absolute best games for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, all around thoroughly. The Bengals game has been the peak thus far, and I think the best is yet to come. Because you got Patrick able to get 2 weeks of rest on that ankle, and I don't know if it wasn't as bad or just, Patrick is tough as nails, mix of both, and everything in there. I think really, I don't think that it was as bad as we initially thought when we saw the Jaguars game, and just the way he was moving in the Jaguars game. So that's my thought on the ankle, really. No designations for the Kansas City Chiefs on the injury report. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, only Britton Covey, wide receiver, hamstring is questionable. That was the only one on the list that had a designation for the Philadelphia Eagles. Biggest keys to this game: limit the run game, win the turnover battle, run the ball efficiently. All season, same thing. Turnovers have been killer for the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you look at where they're at with a -3 differential in takeaways, in turnovers, 20 takeaways, 23 giveaways for the Kansas City Chiefs, -3. It has not been a fun season to watch with the turnover differential. It's been difficult. And every single loss I feel like you can pin on turnovers that the Kansas City Chiefs have suffered this season. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles are at a +8. They're in the top 3, number 3 in the league with their turnover differential, with 27 takeaways and 19 giveaways. So the Eagles have taken care of the ball a lot better than the Kansas City. Well, I won't say they've taken care of the ball a lot better than the Kansas City Chiefs, just for less turnovers. But the 27 takeaways, having 7 more takeaways, I mean, that's a big deal, So they've gotten more takeaways, and granted, even just looking these last 2 games, both teams, with the Kansas City Chiefs +3 in the postseason differential, the Philadelphia Eagles +4. Now the Chiefs and Eagles both have 4 takeaways. The one giveaway was that, odd pass by Patrick Mahomes where he didn't quite have grip of the ball and fumbled the football. So, we'll see how that shapes out. I think the Chiefs are playing at such a higher level. I mean, Jalen Watson, an interception in both games. He's been phenomenal in this postseason, just all season. I mean, go back to the home opener where he has the 99-yard touchdown return for a touchdown, interception return for a touchdown, But, I mean, Jalen Watson has been awesome. And to see Josh Williams and Brian Cook really coming into their own at this point, and the other interception on Joe Burrow with Cook and Williams getting involved together, and McDuffie has just been amazing to watch. Karlaftis, the rookies are just doing such a good job. It's insane to see. And, as we went into I think it was Justin Reed, as we went into the playoffs, they ain't rookies no more. And they have absolutely showed that. The Kansas City Chiefs defense has gone from 22nd in EPA per play and 21st in success rate before their bye week to 11th in EPA per play. That's up 11 spots, and 5th in success rate since then. It just shows how much these rookies on defense have really stepped up and played such a great role. And McDuffie, having him back in the lineup after he missed a good chunk of the season. I know it was something with his leg. I can't remember if it was hamstring or exactly what happened with McDuffie getting hurt in the first week of the season. They're going to have their hands full, plain and simple. Talking about the defense, this Kansas City Chiefs team is going to have their hands full with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert in the passing game, but that has to come from the run game. The run game has to be set up for the Philadelphia Eagles. Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, they have to have big games, I think. And, I think it was Robbie Gould that said, force Jalen Hurts to play quarterback, and it'll be a long day for the offense, for the Philadelphia offense. And I don't think that that's really right, because I think Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. Also, very noteworthy to mention the first time that we have 2 black quarterbacks facing off against each other in the Super Bowl. But Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, and he's shown that this year. He's showed vast improvement. that Eagles rushing attack has been absolutely fantastic with Miles Sanders and Boston Scott this year, along with Jalen Hurts himself. And just going to the two quarterbacks, because these two quarterbacks were the two quarterbacks being discussed in the MVP voting throughout the season. The only two that I really think that were considered, essentially, Joe Burrow, not Josh Allen, not really the seasons that Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes were having. And when you look at the two quarterbacks this year, completion percentage, very close, 66.5 for Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, 67.1. When you look at the yards passing and the touchdowns passing, huge differences. You've got Patrick Mahomes, 19 more touchdowns than Jalen Hurts with 41, Hurts with 22. And granted, Jalen Hurts was injured, so, who knows what his stats would have been if he didn't miss the 2 games that he did. And with him going 14-1 as a starter this year versus Patrick Mahomes 14-3, both of these guys led their teams to 14-win seasons, number 1 overall seeds, and into the Super Bowl. So, just putting that out there, Jalen Hurts is minus 2 games. Obviously, that wouldn't have accounted for, 19 touchdowns through the air. The rate fairly similar, 101.5 for Hurts, Patrick Mahomes 105.2. The yardage, though, another one that's just, you're not going to pick up that many yards in 2 games with Jalen Hurts being about 1,500 yards behind Patrick Mahomes passing-wise. And, what Patrick Mahomes did this year, 5,250 yards, another 5,000-yard season for him. Just putting up crazy numbers. Now, if you do go to the interceptions, Patrick Mahomes had double what Jalen Hurts did with 12. Jalen Hurts was 6. Jalen Hurts played very efficient football this season, and there's no doubt about it. And then when you go to the rushing, I'm not going to leave that out. I know if an Eagles fan is listening to this right now, I hear you. The rushing totals are much different for Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, with Jalen Hurts 760 yards this year on the ground. Patrick Mahomes did have 358 yards on the ground. He had a big game against the Titans. That's off 61 attempts and 13 touchdowns for Jalen Hurts to Patrick Mahomes 4 rushing touchdowns. The rushing yards per attempt, though, Patrick Mahomes is actually almost a yard and a half better than Jalen Hurts on his yards per attempt with just under 6 at 5.9. Jalen Hurts 4.6. Jalen Hurts' longest run was 42. Patrick Mahomes' longest run was at 20 yards. Patrick Mahomes also has a catch for 6 yards this year. So just interesting comparing the two, and just, wanted to put that in here just because both were the 2 top MVP candidates. Obviously, we know Jalen Hurts fell off because of the injury, and but this rushing attack for the Philadelphia Eagles has to be stopped with Lane Johnson, Jason Kelce up front, and the rest of those just absolutely amazing offensive linemen that the Philadelphia Eagles have. I do think the Kansas City Chiefs can lean on their offensive line as well. Joe Thuney, you've got Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Orlando Brown Jr. And say what you want about Orlando Brown Jr., but especially when it comes to running the football, which to me is a key to this game, the Kansas City Chiefs need to be efficient running the football. Orlando Brown Jr. is a very good run blocking left tackle. Not 100% what the Chiefs need. They need a left tackle that's going to protect Patrick Mahomes at all times. He's done a lot better job of that here towards the end of the season than he did earlier in the season. Obviously, he had a pretty rough start / mid-season ish, and but he's looked a lot better. So the Kansas City Chiefs actually allowed a lot less sacks than the Philadelphia Eagles, with the Eagles allowing 44 and 26 sacks allowed for the Kansas City Chiefs. And that was something I was going to kind of go over in the player comparison, because Hurts was sacked 38 times, Patrick Mahomes 26 on the season. So Patrick Mahomes does get sacked less. I think that I don't know how to word this. I think Patrick Mahomes is a better scrambler than Jalen Hurts in trying to find a way to throw the football. When Patrick Mahomes is scrambling, moving around back there, he is looking for a big gain and somebody to break free and find some open space. Jalen Hurts, obviously a better runner than Patrick Mahomes, and can get down the field better, break big runs, more often than Patrick Mahomes is going to. But Patrick Mahomes, when it comes to behind the line of scrimmage, moving around, finding somewhere to throw the ball, obviously you've seen it all year, just insane what he's been able to do. The Jerick McKinnon touchdown, the Clyde Edwards-Helaire touchdown in Tampa Bay where he did the spin move and stopped right at the line of scrimmage, tossed the ball up in the air. The same thing with the Jerick McKinnon play in Denver where he just kind of tosses the ball right around the line of scrimmage after scrambling around and finding a way to throw the ball. Patrick Mahomes is second to none doing that. There is no other quarterback that can do that like Patrick Mahomes can. And I think that is going to be a big difference because this Eagles front that is dominant, everybody up front, 10-plus sacks this season, dominating pass rush. If they can rush for the Kansas City Chiefs may be in a little bit of trouble. But I think they'll figure out and find a way. And honestly, what the Eagles, I think, should do, if I was trying to attack this Kansas City offense with what they have, is go kind of the Bengals approach that they had in the AFC Championship game last year. They didn't utilize it as great this year with what they did, but that game was a whole different story this go around the AFC Championship game. But even if you try to drop a guy, on Kelsey's side, or do something that's going to give you a little bit of an advantage, and maybe even if it's a delayed rush on the fourth man, come with three, and bring a fourth delayed or something like that until Kelsey gets into the second level. You're obviously going to have to double Kelsey most of the game, shadow him, and do your best. Kelsey's going to get his, but at the end of the day, do your best to contain him and don't let him. Watching the QB school, that was a big takeaway, saying don't let anything inside the 20s get you. Don't let Kelsey burn you in the middle of the field. And at the end of the day, the way Kelsey has manipulated the middle of the field and the way he can catch the ball, turn back upfield, and he's got 20 more yards on top of the 20-yard pass, 15 to 20-yard pass he's just caught. Kelsey absolutely burns defenses that way. And that's going to be a big key for the Philadelphia Eagles on the defensive side. But I think the Eagles' biggest key to this game defensively is being able to rush for and get pressure. And it's going to be a tall task for Andrew Weil. It's going to be a tall task for Orlando Brown Jr. It's going to be a tall task for Creed Humphrey. It's going to be a tall task for everyone. But on the other side of the football, you got Chris Jones, who in pretty much all of our minds here in Kansas City just got snubbed for Defensive Player of the Year. Chris Jones is playing mental right now. And maybe Nick Bosa was more deserving of the Defensive Player of the Year, but obviously as a biased Chiefs fan, we all, I think, feel like Chris Jones deserved that. And the way he's playing right now, and obviously for the yearly awards, they don't necessarily include what you're doing in the playoffs. But what Chris Jones has done, he's playing on another level. Jason Kelsey is going to have a hell of an evening in Glendale, Arizona, I think, trying to contain that man, because Chris Jones has just done amazing. And to see what Spags decides to draw up in this game, to try to defend against the RPOs that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to employ. And, the way that they've set that team up, going out and getting A.J. Brown, and how dominant their offense can be, especially with that ground game, man. It's just been... But the Eagles need to get out and get ahead if they're going to win this game. And I don't think that they're going to. I think this defense is good enough at causing chaos. They're going to cause a turnover or two. At least one, I think. And whether it's a fumble, whether it's an interception, I would put my money on that it's probably going to be a fumble. Maybe on an RPO, maybe something happens where, they don't quite get the handoff off right. But I think this defense is good enough about causing chaos. Man, what Spags did last week, that play where he sent Frank Clark, just delayed just a little bit, and Willie right around the corner and got the half sack for Frank Clark and Willie Gay. Just the way he snuck, the way Willie snuck in right at the tight end, the right tackle, doesn't even see him for a second, turns over. Now Frank's coming free. And I mean, Chris Jones is just demolishing the inside at the same time. You get Frank Clark and Willie Gay essentially running free with Willie just getting shoved and keeping it moving, getting to Joe Burrow and getting the sack. I mean, I just expect some really good things drawn up by Spags this week to really slow down this Eagles offense. I don't think that you're going to stop this Eagles offense, but I think you are going to slow them down. They held the Cincinnati Bengals to 20 points last week. And I mean, this is the same Cincinnati Bengals with Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow at quarterback, T. Higgins. That offense is good, very, very good. Tyler Boyd, and Hayden Hurst in the middle as well. So Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, I mean, the list goes on. I mean, there's so many guys that you can just name from that offense that can change the outlook of a game for the Cincinnati Bengals. And to hold them to 20 points last week, I mean, absolutely huge. Now, I feel like that also means the offense is going to have to be 100% on. But I think Patrick Mahomes is coming out for blood. I really do. At the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes has 2 Super Bowls with 2 interceptions in each Super Bowl. He hasn't played his greatest games in either Super Bowl. Obviously, the Bucs game is, it is what it is. There was no offensive line essentially for Patrick Mahomes. That offensive line was beat up and just nothing, a whole bunch of backups running for his life against an amazing defensive line that the Tampa Bay Bucs had put together. But that is another thing that this is another reason I think that this is such a storybook way to do it, because you're coming back against one of the best defensive lines, that we've seen in some years. I feel, 10 sacks across the board. Amazing feat for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they led the league in sacks. So I do think that it's fun. It's a good narrative, and I think it's going to be very exciting to watch that battle in the trenches and see what Mahomes can kind of pull out, maneuvering around and manipulating the field when he scrambles. Isaiah Pacheco, I feel like he needs to have a good day. He needs to have an efficient day. They don't need to hand the ball off 15 to 20 times to Pacheco. Maybe that's your probably max of what you're handing off throughout, whether it's McKinnon or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I do expect him to be on the field a few times at least. He's been practicing. He's back. They've activated him. I'm very excited to see what the Kansas City Chiefs decide to do offensively and what Andy Reid's going to draw up as well. Just because there's so many issues with this offense facing this defense. You got a really good secondary as well. But one interesting stat that I really think is very interesting, and a big nod to the Chiefs and in favor of the Chiefs, because the Philadelphia pass defense is 22nd in the league against pre-snap motion. And I mean, I think we all know how often the Chiefs like to use pre-snap motion. There's a lot of motion in all of Andy Reid's stuff. So the fact that they were, 22nd in the league, bottom half of the league, and pre-snap motion, I think is very telling. And I think there's definitely a way around, because I don't think Philly's defense is as big and as bad as what they've made them out to seem. I think their offensive front is really good. I think if you can maneuver around that, then, and I think the Chiefs definitely can, I think that they are going to be able to score on this defense. I think this defense, it's also going to be interesting to see if they can't get pressure, if they get frustrated and try to blitz Patrick a lot. Because obviously Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the blitz. The best quarterback in the league against the blitz. So that'll be interesting just to see where that goes, and that'll be a fun, kind of up and down to watch, see how often they blitz, see if they're getting frustrated and what they're calling. And but I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the turnovers. I think Kansas City Chiefs will cause a turnover. And to get my prediction, 31-28 is what I'm going with. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a last-second field goal, and I almost think the defense might be out there to finish the game. I don't know if it's going to come down to Patrick Mahomes having to drive down the field and get us into field goal range or score a touchdown. But I do think that the Chiefs kind of handle it and are able to get out ahead and just stay ahead. I think at some point they may be up by a couple of scores, maybe 10 points or so, somewhere in there. But I think that they're able to fend off the Eagles. And at that point, the Eagles are going to have to go into a different play calling and different, just a different bag for Nick Sirianni, because they're not going to be able to just run the ball and run the clock. I think that's going to work against the Eagles in this game, and I think the Chiefs are going to manipulate that to work against the Eagles. I think that it's, the path of least resistance is to just play smart, efficient football, stay on schedule, protect the ball, let them make a mistake, and then let the game come to you and just do your thing, and don't play to not lose, play to win this game at all times, because it's never going to get to a point where this game is out of hand. But I do think Kansas City Chiefs, maybe not going into the half, but maybe somewhere around, early mid-second quarter, they get up maybe 10 points or so, and the Eagles, have to work their way back into the game and just aren't able to rely on that run as much as they want to be able to. Because the Eagles are a team that they want to get out in front. They want to run the ball. They want to work the clock. They want to keep your offense off the field, and that's exactly what you have to do to beat Patrick Mahomes. You have to keep him off the field. So if the Eagles can get what they want to work, it's going to be a very successful night for them. But I do think the Kansas City Chiefs have the tools and are going to be able to, like I said, get that turnover. I think Pacheco comes out and he runs the ball really well. Just an angry runner, right at you, coming right at you. And I think that instills not fear into a defense, but you know what you got coming up against you. What you're going to face is Pacheco, downhill, hard-nosed runner. You've also got Jet McKinnon, man. What a season it's been for that man. What a season that dude has had. All of the receiving touchdowns. It's been awesome to watch. And, I was really high on McKinnon last year in the playoffs, and I thought that he would be an awesome piece to keep around and keep doing what the Chiefs are doing with him. So I think that's awesome. I wanted to see the Chiefs keep Darrell Williams. Obviously, that didn't work out, and, better for it. So, obviously you can't see the future. Didn't see Pacheco, a 7th-round pick, coming out of nowhere to be the starting running back of the Kansas City Chiefs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, though, as I mentioned earlier, coming back in this game, and I am excited to see what he can offer this offense. So 31-28 is my score prediction. Let me know what you guys are thinking on your end. Score prediction. What are the keys to the game for you? What are you looking for out there on Sunday? Obviously, we're going to be watching our tackles, offensive side of the football. We're going to be watching that defensive line on the defensive side of the football, see if they can get pressure, what kind of blitzing scheme Spags is going to bring to try to take down this passing attack of the Philadelphia Eagles, but more importantly, the rushing attack. I mentioned in my blog, I feel like Frank Clark had really stepped up in run defense this year a little bit. And I know he didn't have the greatest season during the season, but that and in the playoffs, obviously he's playing out of this world in the playoffs, but playoff Frank Clark is different. We know this. But the way Frank Clark has played the run, I think he's been better. He's been better at, I think identifying the run and being able to kind of break off of, moving in to kind of go back towards the line of scrimmage and come back and at least make contact help before that back gets to the second level. So it's going to be a lot of reading on the ends. So, Frank Clark is going to have a huge part to play. Carlos Dunlap, Mike Dana, see what they do with Chris Jones, how often they want to kind of put him out wide. Obviously, George Karlaftis, Furious George. The secondary's got a big part to play, but before I get done, Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton has an insanely huge role to play. And Nick Bolton, as much as I love Nick Bolton and how great he's been, the second-year linebacker that just is dominant, 180-plus tackles this year, he's been awesome. The one gripe with Nick Bolton that I think people are right to say is he doesn't get off the block very well. So if the Eagles get up into that second level and they're able to get to Nick Bolton cannot be surprised in this game. The Bills game, the Raiders game, those were two games where Nick Bolton kind of got pushed around a little bit to points where they were coming at him, though. You know, the league knows how good Nick Bolton is and how good of a tackler he is. You are looking for number 32 in the middle. You want, you know, a blocker to get up to that second level to get 32. 32 is a problem when you're trying to run the football up the middle of the football field. Or really anywhere. I mean, Nick Bolton is great side to side. He is not great off of getting off the block. He's not great in zone or, you know, defending against the pass. But that is not what the Kansas City Chiefs have him for. You've got Willie Gay to help out in those moments where, you know, Willie Gay can really do it all. You know, he can pass rush. You know, he's really kind of just a very well-rounded linebacker, whereas Nick Bolton is your specific, that is your run defense right there. I saw on Reddit earlier this year somebody make an edit and called him the Rundertaker, like an Undertaker edit for Nick Bolton. I loved it. The Rundertaker. That's perfect. That fits him perfect. But if you do schedule someone to get up into the second level and go directly after number 32, it could be a long night for 32. So I think Nick Bolton needs to have a big game, and this is what Nick Bolton is here for. He's here to stop a run game like the Philadelphia Eagles have. So if you got to this point, I really appreciate it, and I just want to say thank you for the support wherever you're listening. And if, like I said, if you're here and you enjoyed this, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, give me a rating. Subscribe to the Substack if you're listening on the Substack. If you are not on the Substack, go check it out. PapaSchroKnows.substack.com. Maybe the other way around. Actually, let me do my Googles here. No, PapaSchroKnows.substack.com. Check that out. Go subscribe. You get notified, get emails whenever I post a podcast or a blog. And what a weekend. Chiefs Kingdom. I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm excited to get out, bust the grill out, and it's going to be decent weather here in Kansas City tomorrow. I think it's showing around 50 degrees, maybe mid-50s. I'm not exactly sure where it's at this point, but it was showing that. Let's give you a Super Bowl weather report before I get out of here. Yeah, tomorrow we're showing 58, so almost hitting 60. How about that for the Super Bowl? Gonna get out there, bust out the grill, you know, tailgate at the house a little bit. Wait for this game. Just bask in all the excitement. We've been here before, so we kind of know what's coming with this game, and you know, just enjoy it. And it seems like Kansas City Chiefs have really been enjoying this. They've been playing their best football that they've played, and I think in a long time. And I think that they're gonna go out and get a win. The Andy Reid Bowl, the Kelsey Bowl, whatever you want to call it on Sunday, the what could be the official stamp on the dynasty for the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, all these guys that have been here through the whole thing, could be a big stamp on the dynasty there. So, huge game, super excited. I sincerely appreciate the support if you're checking this out. So, thank you. Enjoy this game, Chiefs Kingdom. Let's go, Chiefs. Let's go get another Super Bowl.